This man bust his butt. Grew up poor, never had nothing. And in the same way that I advocate for you to change the trajectory of your lineage going forward, he had to do it also. Wasn't no handouts. He graduated with hundreds, and when I say hundreds with an S, of thousands of dollars in student loans. But he was intentional in that he decided to make sure that he went into something that was going to pay off in the long run. So he invested in himself. You going out and getting a basket weaving degree is much different than somebody becoming a neurosurgeon. He had to sacrifice years not doing nothing, not having no girls, when there wasn't no parties, when all of the parties and everybody was having fun, or people was picking these trash majors and all of this other type of stuff, and he didn't have no kind of support because he didn't have no money and his parents couldn't help him and none of that other type of stuff. He went through it in the same way, but it's funny because he says that he receives the same criticism that any other white person receives, and that they feel as though it's white privilege that he was even able to become a neurosurgeon at all. I was at the game yesterday, courtside, Pistons. That video will be dropping later on today, right? But I was at the game yesterday, and the guy that sits next to me on my left, right? We sit courtside, we have fun, and we have a long conversation yesterday. So usually we chit chat and we talk here and there, and then we talk at halftime, and then we meet in the club and we have different conversations. And he's a really cool guy. Really, really cool guy. He a white guy, a cool guy. I met his wife several times. Occasionally he'll bring a buddy or two or something like that. But I met his wife, Rita met his wife and stuff like that. But yesterday we were having much longer conversations than we normally would. We was sitting there. I mean, we had our hands around each other like we've been buddies for a long time. You know what I'm saying, Rita? Like, we was just sitting there really kicking it. Rita is sitting right here next to me. So Rita's on my right. He's on my left. I'm talking to him. And we got our hands around each other. We're not drunk or nothing. We just having a really good time. The Pistons is getting beat up, but we really enjoying the fact that Cade is doing phenomenal. I think he finished with 25, 8, and 8. Phenomenal game. But really cool guy. I'm not going to say his name or nothing because I don't like to reveal the names of certain people that's in my network because they understand how visible I am and what it is that I say can come back and affect them and all of this other type of stuff. But he watched the show and he's like, Anton, I had to look you up and all of this other type of stuff because I always see you carrying around a camera and you be vlogging from the games and stuff like that. So I wanted to know what you did. And so we laughing about it, and I'm talking about all of the visibility and the trolls and the fun and the Patreon members and all of the awesome things and the meetups and the stuff that we do, the pros and the cons that come along with what I do. And then we went into a deeper dive about what I did outside of the visibility that I do. Right. And we was talking about the businesses, and I was going over different things that he can maneuver based off of, some of the stuff that we were talking about as a part of the conversation and all of that. So, I mean, super dope guy. He's 40 years old. We are literally the same age. I'm 39, he's 40, but, birthdays is different times. And so Rita leans over, because Rita's laughing and joking and stuff at the same time, and he's enjoying Rita. I get up, I talk to my rep and all of this other type of stuff. Rita leans over and she says, "What do you do?" And I just had realized that I had never asked him what he does, which I almost never ask people that I link up with, interact with, have conversations with. I never ask people what they do for a living simply because I don't mind being asked, but I don't ask people what they do for a living simply because I just believe that it comes up eventually anyway. But he never even mentioned it. And he was so happy to have a conversation about what he did for a living. You guys, you got to tune in for this one. You got to rock with me for a little bit and let me kick it with you and let me bring you along, right? So Rita, everybody loved Rita. He's talking, he's tapping on her shoulder and all of this other type of stuff. And Rita got her hat on and they love her hat. Rita says, "What do you do?" And so I perk up and I'm like, yeah, what do you do? I'm so busy making friends, I don't even be caring. I just be having a good time. He says, "I'm a neurosurgeon." Mother effer. I know you watching right now too, because you said you've been tuning into my shows. He said, I'm a freaking neurosurgeon. I was like, what? You know how much effort it takes to become a neurosurgeon? You know how much hard work you got to put in to be a neurosurgeon? This man is 40 years old. Yeah, Rita just said it. You know how steady your hands got to be to become a neurosurgeon? You know, we talking and met his wife and all of this other type of stuff. This dude says, I'm a neurosurgeon. I said, wait a minute. You sitting here acting like my life is interesting. My life is not interesting compared to what it is that I'm about to get up out of you. And boy, did we do a deep dive. I mean, that whole second half of the game, I barely even went into the club for halftime because I was just so immersed in this dude's story. So immersed. I mean, he was talking about all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he has to spend for malpractice insurance, and, you know, how he always is on call. And, you know, we went into the fact that he's not going to be at the game on Friday, the Golden State game. You know, when you playing West Coast teams, but you live on the East Coast, Midwest, the West Coast teams only come in once a year. So those are the most coveted games of the year. I'm going to be at the Lakers game on Sunday. I'm going to be at the Golden State game on Friday. You know, and then the other little games, sometimes you give them away for clients and stuff like that, depending on how busy you are in your schedule. But I was getting on him. I said, no way you're not going to be at this Golden State. He said, Anton, I have to go to this charity event. I said, no way. I told you I was going to tell on you today. He said, no. He said, I can probably try to dip in because it's going to be down here, but I'm going to have on he said, I'm going to have on a red velvet tux though. Best of friends. We decided that we going to spend more time together. Some of the most interesting people that you've ever met in your life, simply because we enjoy each other and we making friends. And this is the true idea of networking, ladies and gentlemen. This is the true idea of networking. But the more important thing, and it's a couple different lessons that I want to bring out of this for y'all, is that if you're not even in the room, then you can't have the conversation. That's A. Actually, we're going to bring out 3 lessons. If you're not in the room, you don't even get to have the conversation. It has nothing to do with our color, nothing to do with what we do for a living, as long as it's not some scumbag junk, right? Nothing to do with gender, age, any of that. It has everything to do with whether or not the person likes you. And so many of y'all are so concerned with all of these different things that don't even mean anything. And the access that you have is going to be largely tied to whether or not you can be personable, whether or not you have soft skills, your ability to be able to be social, not be so standoffish, and more importantly, not being on code just because you don't want to rock with somebody that you don't even know based off of some other thing that they can't control, like whether or not they're a woman, whether or not they're a man, whether or not they're black, they're white, whatever, so on and so forth. You guys are in your own way for no reason at all. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson that I want to emphasize to you guys is it's very, very important for you to do that internal work and change who you are that's projected on the outside to other people, because that's also going to be a barrier to your success. It does not matter how you see yourself. It matters how other people want to interact with you. When you go on a job interview, when you're networking with people, if people don't want to be around you because they don't feel as though you're a cultural fit, whatever that is not their responsibility to make sure that you're included. No matter how many laws you think is going to change, no matter how many people that you think owes you something, no matter how it is that you feel like you can walk around and not wear deodorant, it's not my responsibility to accommodate you. I don't have to align myself with or do business with you. It's important if you decide that you want to climb that corporate ladder, if you want to be in certain circles or whatever, so on and so forth. Yes, the reality is that you're going to have to play the game. And third, and most important, one of the things that I've learned from this gentleman as of last night, one of the things is that you don't know other people's story. This man bust his butt. Grew up poor, never had nothing. And in the same way that I advocate for you to change the trajectory of your lineage going forward, he had to do it also. Wasn't no handouts. He graduated with hundreds, and when I say hundreds with an S, of thousands of dollars in student loans. But he was intentional in that he decided to make sure that he went into something that was going to pay off in the long run. So he invested in himself. You going out and getting a basket weaving degree is much different than somebody becoming a neurosurgeon. He had to sacrifice years not doing nothing, not having no girls, when there wasn't no parties, when all of the parties and everybody was having fun, or people was picking these trash majors and all of this other type of stuff, and he didn't have no kind of support because he didn't have no money and his parents couldn't help him and none of that other type of stuff. He went through it in the same way, but it's funny because he says that he receives the same criticism that any other white person receives, and that they feel as though it's white privilege that he was even able to become a neurosurgeon at all. And I find that fascinating. I find it fascinating how it's so important, and people tell Anton, you shouldn't judge people. But that is the very thing that we see people do to other people that they don't agree with when they feel like it. We see people judge other people and don't even realize that they're doing it, but they feel as though they have the right to, because for some reason or another, they had it better than you. You don't know their story. You don't know where they came from. You don't know where they went through. You don't know how many people died. You don't know what the piston happened in their life. But you automatically make your assessment based off of what you see from somebody and something that they can't control in order to make an accurate assessment of whether or not they deserve where they're supposed to be and how that plays a role in your life. The reality is that they're going to continue to live their life and they're going to thrive. This man works relentlessly. One thing that we realized that we had in common, and one thing that we realized that we had in common from the people that's in our network, is that every last person, every one of them, from the time that they was in college to right now, every last one of these people work relentlessly. One day I'm going to do a whole deep dive of exactly what my day is like, and it's going to blow your mind. Working relentlessly. So when we finally get the opportunity to get a nice car that we barely can drive as much as we really want to, when we finally get the opportunity to sit courtside at a game, it's a blessing because we spend the overwhelming majority of our time working. It's a privilege when I get to spend some quality time with my chick because I'm grinding all day, every day, 7 days a week. Holidays, birthdays, weekends, nights, weekends, midnights, afternoons, mornings. We grinding all day, every day. All day, every day. So just think about that for a second. Just think about how it is that you can learn from this conversation that I'm having with you right now, and that you can move a little bit differently as far as how it is that you can build your network, A, how you can make some adjustments to yourself in order to be more likable and have better soft skills, B, and then how it is that you can make a better assessment of people and be a better judge of character based off of the things that you experience with people instead of what it is that they look like and that they can't control. Because all these things and making an adjustments in these spaces is going to benefit you. Everybody else going to keep winning. But if you want to be a part of the cool kids club, and I consider the cool kids club the nerds club, right? We all squares. We don't want no hood junk around us. We not trying to put ourselves in a position to have no issues. We trying to level up. We pouring into each other. We got into a whole Star Wars conversation about how he was a Star Wars geek. And then he went into how he met Mark Hamill. And I'm not going into that. The point is that there's some awesome people in this world, and just because you limit yourself to them, it's not anybody else's responsibility or problem but yours. So if you want to level up and you want to make some adjustments, there's some ways that you can do it, but it first starts here, not with nobody else. All right?